Okay, let's get started. Really excited about today. Thank you all for joining. I'm Steve Glenn. I'm the founder and CEO of Plant Prefab, if you've not been here before. And it's a real honor to feature Jared Levy and Marmol Radziner on a bunch of different levels. First of all, on a personal level, I actually hired Marmol many years ago for a home that I bought. It was a major renovation project, and they did an incredible job. I mean, they're one of the best firms out there for just really, really high quality residential work. Um, they are a rare firm that does both design and construction. So they're a true design build firm. You can work with them sort of either way. Um, and they do extraordinarily high quality work. Jared actually has been worked with him in prefab, went off and started his own prefab company, and is back working with him in prefab. And there are just few people who know more about doing really awesome architectural, super high quality homes than Jared. We're working together on a project they have, and so I told you I'm kind of particularly excited about that and honored that they selected us. So today, we're gonna tell you just a little bit about Plant, in case there's some people here that are not as familiar with us. Really save much of the time for Jared to go through what they do and why and how. A little bit about Jared, as I said, has extensive experience in prefab. He can talk about the advantages, but we really want to leave most of today for questions from you all. We've done a number of these in the past, and we know you have a lot of questions, so we'll leave a good chunk of time for that. Again, thank you for coming. I'm just going to quickly tell you about Plant. We're pretty unique in the prefab world. Most prefab companies out there, few things, they do products. So they have mobile homes is probably the best known of the products in prefab. We were started actually to do kind of custom projects. So we work with people like Marmol Radziner and Kieran Timberlake and Brooks Scarpa and Loha and other great firms. We've had the uh, uh, fortune to work with some top architects on custom single and multifamily projects, and that's why we exist. To do that super efficiently, we have a hybrid building system. So we do both panels and modules. Most prefab companies tempted to say all do one or the other, and they both have certain advantages and disadvantages, or challenges, I should say. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a second. I'm going to give you a quick 2-minute tour of our factory. And then we have the only facility in the US purpose built to do both panels and modules. So we build our panels with automation, and then we do we build our modules with those panels. Some of our projects are all panels, some of them are all modules. Many of them, particularly in the residential space, are hybrid. But we really take great pride in the quality of the work we do. We're very focused on sustainability. We are a B Corp. We're a benefit corp. We take climate resilience and our ecological footprint quite seriously, and do a lot working with the designers with whom we partner to try to reduce energy and water and resource use, and try to make sure we have good indoor air quality. So, quick background, show you a quick video, and then we'll get to the real focus of today, which is Jared and the work of Marmol Radziner. So, we operate out of a facility, 250,000 square foot, 150,000 square foot facility in Arvin, California. It was built for us. We're capable of doing 3 million square feet a year at scale. We're going to go through it roughly how projects do, but every project starts with a manufacturing model. So we take the architecturals from the architect and we fully coordinate your structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, your sprinklers, and we do this, first of all, so we can clarify any constructability issues digitally before we actually start construction. That dramatically reduces on change orders. We did 3 last year that weren't client motivated, but it also gives us the embedded in that model are the CNC instructions that tell our equipment what to do. So every project starts here. This cuts every piece of wood we use, every stud and joist. And again, it comes from that model. And this equipment is capable of doing very complex cuts, does it far faster and more accurately than humans. We also do the routing. So, no plumber or electrician needs to measure for gravity drops. It's all done here. Every piece of wood is labeled. We know what project, where in the project. We have 3 automated panel lines, one for wall panels, one for floor panels, one for roof panels. So this is a wall panel line. You saw a piece of equipment that nails the studs and joists together. This nails the sheathing, cuts out openings for windows and doors, cuts out any excess wood. And in addition to, again, being faster and more efficient than humans, we get panels that are absolutely level, straight, square, flush, almost aerospace levels. As Jared can confirm, like building a really high quality home begins with the structure. You just want to make sure that's absolutely level, straight, square, flush. You just saw a piece of equipment that blows in insulation. We have these different lines where we then put in windows, cladding if that's part of our spec. We have 3 panel lines with 7 stations each. Sorry, module lines with 7 stations each. So here, manually, we put in drywall and millwork and tiles, paint, waterproofing. Inspections are done at the factory. We often get questions about inspections. Happy to talk about that later. We then prep the modules for shipping. Um, we're like a building product supplier, so we supply these components to your general contractor. They're responsible for pickup and installation. Um, uh, we're often selling the components to a GC, so you have one group that you deal with, your GC. So we're like a master sub in that situation to them, and they're responsible for actually as I said, transport and install. This is a project we did with Lorcan or Healy, who sadly passed away yesterday. I should mention that. Really incredible architect, was very sad about that. So um, uh, that's our spec. That's our scope rather, and we work very, very closely with the architects and the general contractors to make sure we're figuring out really the most efficient way to build your project. So happy to answer any questions. By the way, we do weekly tours, so you're welcome to see this in person. Happy to answer any questions later, but again, the star tonight is Jared. And Jared, again, super honored to have you. And Jared will go through his presentation and then look forward to your questions. Thanks again for joining us, Jared.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Steve. It's nice to virtually meet everyone who's on. So yeah, I'm Jared Levy. I lead the prefab work at Marmol Radziner, and I'm excited to give you all some background about the firm and what we're doing with prefab. So let me share my screen. So can everyone see that?
Sure can.
Great. Um, so yeah, so hold on a second. Marmol Radziner started in 1989. We started as an architecture firm and then began to take on more and more of the work that goes into building a home. So we have our own in-house construction department. We do our own interior design. We make our own furniture when appropriate. We also offer landscape architecture services. In addition to all this, we also have our own wood shop, our own cabinet shop, and our own metal shop. And I think this holistic approach where having all these in-house capabilities of architects, interior designers, landscape designers, cabinet makers, metal fabricators, construction crews, it really gives us a level of knowledge and experience that is really unique in this profession. We have offices in LA, San Francisco, and New York. We currently employ about 150 people across the different offices and the field. All right, so I'm going to start with a few examples of our design build work. So these homes were conventionally built on site, so it's not with prefab, but this is really our core business. This is a home we did in Mandeville Canyon, and the house is really designed to act as a backdrop for the landscape and to really bring the outdoors in as much as possible. So almost like the house, in a sense, disappears. This is a house we did in Montecito. We nestled it into the hillside and really orientated out towards the views of the valley beyond. Um, we often use warm materials in the inside of our home. So a lot of times we'll have stone. In this case, the stone goes from outside to inside. We have wood ceilings that go from inside to outside. So again, it's always about trying to be seamless between inside and outdoor living as much as possible. This is a house we did in La Jolla. And here you can kind of see the integration of landscape design and the flow of the space from inside to outside, which is really important to how we think about design and how we think about someone moving through spaces. We use a similar material palette here with the stone and wood on the inside. We typically use large sliding doors, glass sliding doors to open up the inside to the outside and to kind of blur that line. Okay, so now on to our prefab work. So it sort of all started back in 2004. We entered the first Dwell magazine competition to design a prefab home. This was really the early days of Dwell and a part of that first modern prefab wave back in the early 2000s. We didn't win the competition, but given our history of kind of doing more and more of the scopes, this idea of building a house in a factory really appealed to us and kind of resonated with us. So in 2005, we started our own factory. It was located in Vernon, California, just south of downtown. This was the first prefab home we did. It's called Desert House out in Desert Hot Springs. We were using steel frame modules at the time. And here you can kind of see the modules in the factory being built at the same time as the foundations and site work is being done. And that's one of the key advantages to prefab is that it can really cut down build times by 40 to 50% by being able to kind of be building the house in the factory. You know, you can be doing the plumbing fixtures and the tile, and at the same time, you're also doing all the grading and the foundation work and utility work. And so that really is an advantage in the overall timeline. This is it when it was done. It was about 2,000 square feet of interior space split between a main house. And then on the left is a guest house and studio. And then there's an additional 2,000 square feet of covered deck space where we used the modules, the steel frame modules, as a way to create outdoor covered spaces. Here's a view of the San Jacinto Mountains through the covered deck, connecting kind of the main house to the guest house. So this idea of using modules to create covered decks is really important to what we were doing then and is also kind of carries over to what we're doing now. Here you can kind of see how it creates these spaces outside. for this house and for a lot of the homes we did back then, it essentially doubled the amount of living space in a house by kind of essentially giving you all this outdoor space to really live and be comfortable in. This is a house we did in Moab, Utah. Many of the homes we did back then were second homes and remote sites. A lot of ways that makes sense for using prefab because a lot of times in these remote locations, like Moab, Utah, it's hard to find skilled construction to do modern homes. It's also really hard to manage projects in these remote locations. So building offsite in a factory made a lot of sense. Um, we're always trying to kind of maximize what we do in the factory. So, windows and doors, the flooring, the kitchen cabinets, the countertops, the backsplash, complete bathrooms with all the tile, plumbing fixtures, sinks, and faucets. Everything's done in the factory as much as possible because we really want to minimize what gets done on site. This was a house we did, prefab house we did outside of Las Vegas. It's probably the most complicated house we've ever built in a factory. Well, it was the most complicated house. It's about 14,000 square feet, made up of over 40 modules. It's installed over a sunken auto court and a basketball court. Here you kind of see it overlooks the Vegas Strip. It was really this beautiful blend of indoor outdoor living. Um, so this was around maybe like 2008 or so. We stopped our prefab operations in 2010 when the housing market collapsed with the Great Recession. We kept doing our core business, continued on the design build business, but we closed down the factory then. And so that brings us to more in line with today. So, when the devastating wildfires happened kind of in our backyard, really, we received a lot of calls from folks needing to rebuild the homes they lost. Usually when a client comes to an architect, they've been planning and getting ready to start this process for years in advance. In this case, no one had been planning to have to take on the process of rebuilding a house and building a new house. And so this process of having to hire an architect, design a new home, go out to bid to multiple builders, not really knowing how much it's going to cost, then hire a builder, in an overall timeline of potentially 3 years just was overwhelming for a lot of people we spoke to. So we knew that prefab can be a more streamlined process. So we developed a new line of prefab homes specifically for kind of this rebuilding. Unlike our prior prefab work that really focused on larger custom second homes on large remote lots, this time we really focused on infill lots. And so this is a site plan for one of our models, the MR 2500. It's designed to work on the typical 40-foot wide or 50-foot wide infill lots that are common in the Palisades. It's 2,560 square feet, two-story home. It has 4 bedrooms and 4.5 baths. You can kind of see you enter the house from an entry court in the front. Then you enter into a double height entry space. There's an ensuite bedroom downstairs that can be used as a home office or kind of aging in place bedroom. And then in the back is the great room that has the kitchen, dining, living, and it all opens out to the backyard and to decks. You also have the ability to put an ADU in back. This is a view from the great room, kind of looking into the back. You can kind of see, even though we're doing standard models, we still build in the ability to customize it and personalize it so you can change the finishes in the cabinets, the countertops. You can change the finish in the ceiling and have wood in some areas. Obviously, the flooring can change. You can also choose different appliances and fixtures. So as long as kind of the model stays the same, we still have built in the ability to really kind of make this house unique and personalized. So on the second floor, you come up the stairs into a study that overlooks the double height entry. Then there's 3 bedrooms upstairs. They each have their own bathrooms. And then the primary bedroom and back has kind of a larger bathroom and closet suite. And then this is the view as you come up the stairs in the study, kind of looking back down into the entry and back into the entry courtyard. So we also have a model, we call it the MR 2800. The numbers are basically the size of the home. So this model is similar to the one we just looked at, the MR 2500, but it's wider to take advantage of 50-foot wide lots. So you can kind of see here, essentially we took the plan of the MR 2500 and add a module kind of on the top plan. And so that gives you a larger great room and also a larger kind of bedroom office on the ground floor. Um, it too has, so it's about 2,800, I think it's 2,880 square feet. Yeah. It has the same configuration upstairs with the 3 bedrooms and 3 baths. And then here's a back view of that model, kind of showing how the home opens up to the backyard and to the outdoors. There's large sliding glass doors in the back that open out to the decks. So all the decks and landscapes and hardscapes are completely customizable, kind of based on the lot and how someone wants to use their outdoor space. Pricing wise, our 2-story models generally cost around $825 a square foot. This includes everything to build the house, but doesn't include landscape, hardscapes, or the garage, as those tend to vary kind of based on each project and each site. The 1-story models, which I'm about to get to, start at about $875 a square foot. So this is one of the 1-story models. It's called the MR 1700. It's 1,720 square feet, has 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. It can work on 40-foot wide lots. Like the other models, the great room is in the back to kind of really open up to the backyard and to the outdoors and to the light. And you can also have an ADU as well in the back. So the first prefab fire rebuild we're doing is underway. The site's on the alphabet streets, foundations are complete, and it's ready for delivery, which I think is going to happen next week. This home was part of the case study adapt program, and it was a custom design. So, along with the standard models that we've been developing and now have kind of launched, we also can do custom prefab designs. All of our fire rebuilds are built with fire resiliency in mind. We're working really closely with IBHS, which is the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, and they're essentially writing the guidelines for insurance companies for insuring homes in severe fire zones. And so we're working with them to kind of make sure we're in compliance and also to try and push back a little bit on some of the items that they're including in their checklists. So we're using all non-combustible materials on the outside. Here we're using metal siding. On some of the other models, we can also do plaster finishes as well. This particular home, again, custom design, has all plywood cabinets and plywood ceiling on the inside. And this provides kind of a warm interior to contrast the metal siding on the outside. So we're scheduled to deliver this home next week. We're excited to be working with Steve and Plant Prefab on our next prefab home, which is one of the standard models that we showed, the MR 2800. That's scheduled to go in for state approval this week and start production sometime in September. And I've listed my contact information here on the slide, and please reach out to us if you're interested in working with us to help with your rebuilding needs. And with that, I can kick it back to Steve.
Thanks, Jared. Awesome work. You guys are just, yeah, spectacular.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
I just wanted to mention, so we actually have 97 rebuild homes under contract across Altadena, Pacific Palisades, and Malibu. Actually, biggest chunker in Altadena. And that's individuals and developers. We're doing a bunch of work with both. We're seeing budgets all in that range from um, 650 to 1,000 plus. I would say probably the biggest number. And when I say budgets, I mean all hard costs. So that's our cost, site cost, transport, install, some landscape. I'm not extensive landscape. Um, I would say probably the sweet spots between 7 and 800 a square foot. So, and then we're seeing dramatically faster schedules. The GCs with whom we're working are giving people 7 month, 8 month schedules from start of construction to C of O. We're hearing double that for a traditional site-based process. Anyway, happy to answer any questions. Just raise your hand and I will call on you and we are available to answer any and every question. Okay, Vish?
Yeah. Hi, this is Vish. You guys can hear me?
We can, yeah.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I might have missed it, but what I was interested in understanding is what kind of customization. I mean, whatever I saw here is beautiful, actually, right? Super awesome modern houses. What I was looking for is what sort of customization is available, right? Like, I'm looking for a two-story house now. For that, I definitely want to have a option of selecting stairs. Want to have the grand entrance to the house with a high ceiling, all of that, right? So I'm just wondering
Mhm.
what kind of customization, be it a staircase, be it cabinets, be it a floor plan, all of that, right? So just wondering customization around end to end. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's definitely varying levels of customization that we can do. You can, on one extreme, you can kind of start with one of our standard models, and then there's a lot of flexibility with like cabinet finishes and even maybe tweaking the kitchen layout. We can move windows and doors around. You can choose different finishes for just about everything, different appliances. So there's a lot of built-in flexibility for finishes and fixtures with our standard models. Um, it's hard to move walls around with our standard models because then you're really starting to get into it's not really standard anymore. And so we're always available. And you saw we did a custom prefab. So we can do, on the other extreme, we can do a completely custom prefab. Um, Generally, the cost would be around the same as our standard, as long as we're using our system and we're still using our same finishes and things like that. The main difference will be like the design fees will be higher for a custom versus a standard, but we can do a completely custom prefab home.
Yeah, and I just
Awesome.
want to point out, Jared mentioned this, but just to make sure you got this, Vish, the home that Jared showed that's in production, that's custom, full custom. The one
Right.
we're doing together that should go into state approvals this week is a standard. So they're sort of doing both.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Yeah. In my case, actually, the lot size is bit uh, peculiar, and on the smaller side, it's like 50 by 65.
Oh,
So that's one. And then the second thing is clarification on like when you say panel versus module, like if there is a access issue and we cannot get a huge crane to drop in a module, is there a option to then ship the panels and then the install of panels happens on site. Is that the correct understanding?
With us, absolutely. I mean, Jared in a second needs to answer whether Marmol would entertain that for their models.
Right.
But we do all panel projects actually for a couple reasons. One, absolutely what you're alluding to, which is access issues, right? Do you have both the ability to transport modules there, and do you have the room maneuverability for cranes to be able to put them in? And if the answer is no to one or both, then panels is your only solution. So we do panel projects for that. The other reason sometimes is just the design doesn't lend itself to modules. Modules have, because of transport, particular width and height dimensions that really are limitations. And panels doesn't have that in the same way. And oftentimes it's a hybrid. It'll have panels and modules. But Jared, would you guys consider a panel project?
Yeah, yeah, we possibly would. I mean, I think our go-to in when we're doing prefab is typically to do the modular approach, mainly because, our goal is to get as much done in the factory as we can, because that's where the real savings are and where you have the most control, obviously. But yeah, if a house can't get delivered, whether it be power lines or some access issues, then I think we would be open to a panelized approach with plant.
Awesome.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Sure. Uh, John, and before you speak, I saw in the text, I think you're calling in from Manila, so you probably win the award for the furthest webinar participant, but maybe someone further away, but
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Steve. And yeah, great to see you, Jared.
Thanks, John.
Johnny Everett, calling in from the Philippines. I run a small and scrappy volumetric modular startup here, but very much inspired by the work that Jared has done. And yeah, so just a huge fan. Question, I guess, for both of you guys. On materials. So I saw in Jared's presentation, one of their early modular projects for Marmol was steel framed. And then most of the videos that I saw from Steve, all wood, both panelized and volumetric, looked like wood framed. And then in the later photos that Jared showed, also wood. So I guess just kind of would be curious to hear your thoughts on the maybe philosophical difference between steel framing versus wood framing, especially in fire rebuild areas. Yeah, I know there's certainly cost implications, maybe some other design implications, but yeah, kind of curious to hear both of your perspective on steel versus wood in terms of structure.
Yes, Steve, do you want to go or?
um, I sure I'll give you a quick perspective and
Sure.
so first of all, we at this point only do wood framing. However, we have a steel shop, so we will do moment frames. We will do steel structural elements. Wood is it's much cheaper than steel. In the U.S., most homes are made of wood, not steel, because of cost.
Got it.
Let me address an issue with fire resilience because they're uh, some people feel like, well, it's got to be steel frame to be fire resilient, and let me be clear on this. If your enclosure is breached, it doesn't matter what your framing is.
Yep.
Your house will burn, and one need only drive through the Palisades or Malibu, and you will see steel frames, but nothing in them. So
Got
the most important thing to get is your enclosure. So,
Got
what's your cladding, what's your windows, what are you doing with eaves, what are you doing with landscape? Make that as fire resilient as possible. Happy to get into that if people wonder what are some of the strategies we've seen or that Marmol does. Now, having said that, if it's steel it certainly can deal with a higher temperature than wood. But again, if it gets breached, it doesn't matter your frame, your house will burn. So,
Got it.
Jared, you want to add any perspective on this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree on the fire resiliency part of it. I mean, that we've had a lot of discussions with people about that. And yeah, if the fire has gotten through your siding and is in the wall, it definitely doesn't matter at that point, unfortunately. Yeah, I think for us, I think when we had our own factory, you know, we had a lot of experience with steel. We already had a metal shop and a steel shop, so it made sense to do that. You know, you can definitely get a lot of clear spans with steel. Um, you know, switching to wood now, I think it's twofold. Like one, it is more cost effective, just hands down. Um,
Yeah.
Second, it provides easier connections. You know, I think when you use the steel frame, you end up with a lot of kind of unique situations that also start to drive up the cost a little. Whereas with wood, you know, essentially like home building is just designed around using wood and making it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So I think that also helps kind of lower the cost a little when you use wood. And, you know, I've been honestly surprised with the new kind of engineered lumber that's out there and TGIs and LVLs. And you can get spans that, like, we've never been in a situation switching to wood where we're like, oh, we can't get the clear opening we wanted. You know, I think it's mainly cost driven, but it's also, I think, the technology in wood and the kind of the lumber and framing that's available has also gotten better. So
Interesting.
you don't really notice a difference when it comes to kind of design.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I should just mention, we've used every kind of lumber that Jared mentioned. We have that capability, as well as I said, our own steel shop. So when you do want, and we'll do work with architects to do, multi-part sliders that require big moment frame for that opening, we do it. And we can
Cool.
integrate that steel both in the panels and in the modules. So anyway,
Cool.
any other
Awesome. Thank
questions, John? Yeah.
No, thanks. This was great. The connections point was fascinating. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense intuitively that just in the U.S., everyone knows how to use wood. Every builder will know how to do those connections. So yeah, we're limited in the Philippines because lumber isn't readily available, and so steel, concrete is sort of the cement hollow block is the dominant construction material. So we're a bit of an outlier even in the local context because we use steel, and also it's more expensive than concrete here. So, but we like it because it's from a manufacturability perspective and a precision perspective, it's very good. So, but thanks for your perspective.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Tiara? Tiara Miller?
Hi, can you hear me?
You can, yeah.
Yep.
Hi, hello. I just had a quick question. So, have you done anything in the New York area, like Westchester County? I was curious if you've done anything up north.
Is that for Steve or for?
We've not, have
Oh,
you?
I'm sorry. Either of you
Oh,
guys.
well, we have an office in New York, so we do work out there. We haven't delivered a prefab there. There definitely would be a lot of additional delivery costs and installation costs to get it out there.
Okay.
But we definitely, you know, are able to do that.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Sure. Any other questions? Going once? Up. John, I think you have another question.
Yeah, I mean, I just the opportunity to talk to you both is incredible. So if no one else is going to ask, I would love to just pick your brains. I guess for Steve, question just about how you came up with the model for Plant Prefab. Just in terms of, I don't know, it almost seems like TSMC equivalent model, and that you're just doing the manufacturing, right? Yeah, can you maybe? I'd be curious to hear a little bit about the founding of Plant Prefab and how you guys position it, and then how you go out and find projects. Because we're a design and build firm in the Philippines, and managing that pipeline is just brutally challenging. But we also do our own design, so we can control it to some degree. I'm curious, kind of how you do it as a pure manufacturer.
Yeah, I'm just going to answer briefly. We do have some other questions, and
Okay, sorry.
but no worries. Well, interesting enough, we sort of came about this, dare I say, honestly. I wanted to be an architect growing up. I did a design program in college and learned that, unlike Jared, I had neither the talent nor temperament to be an architect. I just concluded I'd be like a bad architect, and I respected design too much, and so I learned about developers and realized, oh wow, there are people out there, and I mean developers are a great example, who frankly are more responsible for the quality of the built environment, right? I mean, people hire um, folks like Marmol and let them do great things, or not. And so I said, someday, hopefully, I'm in a position to facilitate great design. And so after a career in tech and some nonprofit work, I started a company called Living Homes, a design and development company. And our model was to partner with great architects. And initially, we were doing standard homes. Um, I started the company in 2006, which was the year before the beginning of the worst real estate downturn since the Great Depression. It was not a good time to start a real estate company. Obviously, I didn't have the insight of the Big Short guys, but the one because my background was in tech, and my first company I worked for out of college was Apple. Apple doesn't own factories, right? It outsources that,
Yep.
like other consumer product companies, because factories, they want to stay full. It's a very different sort of business model than most other kinds of businesses. And so we didn't open a factory. Instead, we outsourced. And in our first 10 years, we worked with 10 different factories, many of which like built mobile homes. And we're doing LEED platinum level homes with people like Ray Cappy and Kieran Timberlake and others. And we were just fighting gravity constantly. But we were just trying to survive during the downturn. But post downturn, we got really busy. And in thinking about how can we solve this big problem, like the factories we were working with are just not right for what we want to do. Kind of concluded that if there was a new company that existed, set up not to do standard low cost, um, uh, non-custom architectural homes, um, guys we were working with, but rather kind of the opposite, architectural, customized, really high quality, LEED platinum level homes. If that company existed and had the right technology and resources, not only would it solve our needs, but we could solve the needs of hundreds of thousands of individuals and developers and nonprofits who need a better way to build what they build, typically in areas, cities, mountain home communities where people are hiring architects to do customized projects. So we spun out Plant Prefab 10 years ago. And initially I was running both companies. Plant later bought Living Homes, but really, and we do have a design group, but really most of what we do is work with architects. And the last thing I'll say is we we get the vast majority of our work from architects, who thankfully find us to be a more efficient way to do their to build their projects. And one of the things I think we've done, pretty well, we respect architectural integrity. We respect the value they place on high quality construction, and we've got a process for doing that tends to be more efficient oftentimes than a traditional process. So anyway, that's
Cool.
there's a lot of, I mean, you could read at our website and stuff. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
best of luck. Thanks for joining us.
yeah. Thank you.
Gene Ruda.
Hi, this is Gene. Thanks so much. Nice to see you, Steve, or hear you. And Jared, thanks so much. I want to focus just a little bit on, I know Steve introduced the company as being a mutual benefit or a benefit corp and having a sustainability approach. And I wanted to understand from Jared's point of view a couple of things. One is the application of alternative materials. I know you're studying and talking about steel and wood, but of course, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into building. And so I wanted to ask you questions about alternative panel structures, for example, built or green build kind of paneling that might come from, for example, straw, cob, earthen sources, and how you'd accommodate those, Steve, on the which I'm sure you're doing in certain ways for composite woods. But how would you, and what are your thoughts on that? And then in conjunction with that, Jared, are you your visualization and design processes incorporating uh, life cycle assessment, carbon footprinting, and that sort of thing, or hearing that demand from your clients? Those are the two questions. Thanks.
Jared, you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think when it comes to alternative building materials, we can do that on the custom site built side. It's harder for us to do that on the prefab side, just because it's hard to kind of, factories since are set up to build certain ways, and we're trying to design to kind of fit in with how they're building. So to kind of have a whole different way of constructing walls can present a challenge that again can then lead to kind of a more expensive solution than it should have been, because it's just all new and it's something that no one's familiar doing. So on the prefab side, we tend not to be that exploratory when it comes to different panelized systems and materials. We're always looking for different materials and finishes to use in our homes, whether they're site built or prefab. So we're always kind of researching that and looking into that. I think for the most part, the clients that we talk to are very interested in energy efficiency. They're interested in kind of, essentially having as much insulation as possible, using the right glazing, using reflective roofs, and just really kind of driving home energy savings and limiting energy usage and tying in solar systems and battery backups and trying to be off grid as much as possible. I think that's kind of what we've been seeing with the people and the clients that we've been working with, more so than kind of sustainable products and materials and things like that.
And to be clear, like we follow the spec of the architect. We've done some pretty dramatic stuff in our 10 years, and that's motivated by the client first and foremost, and the architect with whom we're working with. I mean, I think we've done more LEED Platinum certified homes than any other factory. Hard to find stats, but I'd be surprised if anyone's come kind of close to the number we've done. Um, we are definitely very flexible about materials, and we love a client and an architect who wants to really work hard to reduce ecological footprint. We've done a number of net zero projects. We've done not net zero electricity, I should say. We've done a number of passive house standards. So yeah, we're respect driven. We don't impose, although frankly, for materials where means and methods that we control, for example, our drywall is 100% recycled drywall content. Our paints and stains are 100% VOC free. We drive that standard, but you're really getting into stuff that an architect would have to drive. And as Jared said, to be clear, sadly, some of these things do entail greater costs. But if clients up for it, awesome.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Uh, 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 Derek?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you both. A question for Steve. So, is it correct to understand that most of your clients are like individuals are looking for like sort of high-end houses, or does your projects also involve like maybe affordable housing that go up to like 100 units or 3 floors, 4 floors, sort of multi or duplex houses as well?
Yeah, no. So we have both. We have developers, we have individuals and nonprofits. Actually, we did last year well, it was completed this year, our first affordable multifamily project. We did that with Brooks Scarpa in Santa Monica. Really great project. We actually have a 6-story affordable housing project in Koreatown. It's 60 units. So yeah, we work with all the above.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much.
Oh, and I should mention, both Jared and I provided our contact info. Jared, maybe add your email to the chat. I added mine.
Sure.
We are both available to look at projects. So, get in touch with Jared. You're interested in working with Marmol, uh, uh, I know he'd love to talk to you about how you could work together. If you have a project you want us to take a look at separate, happy to talk to you about that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Going once. Going twice. All right. Hey, Jared, thank you so much. This was awesome. Again, super honored to be working with you. Can't wait to install this home and for you guys to hand over the keys. I know Jared feels similarly. We really appreciate the trust that in particular folks who lost their homes to the wildfires have given to us. I do believe we're going to help people get back to their homes and their communities more efficiently than a traditional process. And, we feel great about that. My mom grew up in the Palisades. So I've known it for all my life. We worked with people after Woolsey and Tubbs before that. So we have some sense of the stress and challenge that the losing home and the fires and the rebuilding process. And so we taken this really doing our best effort to make this as painless a process for our clients and now with Marmol for their clients. So thank you all for joining. Please email us if you have any more questions. Please come visit us, and we'll let you know about another webinar in the future. Thanks again, Jared.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everybody.